Hello everyone, this is Zhai Xu from the Ohio State University. I'm glad to present our work entitled Asynchronous and Load-Balanced Union Find for Distributed and Parallel Scientific Data Visualization and Analysis. As the data size continues to grow, data parallelism becomes a default paradigm to analyze and visualize large-scale scientific data sets. The data parallelism generally consists of three steps. First, the data is partitioned and distributed among parallel processes. Second, each process performs the visualization and analysis on local data and generates intermediate local results. Third, those local results are merged into a final result. Union Find plays a key role in merging disjoint sets. For example, in 3D volumetric data, after each parallel process identifies a group of voxels with values larger than a threshold, we can merge identified adjacent voxels into the same set using the union operation provided by the union find algorithm to extract volume. We use the serial union find as a guiding example for the basic concepts of union find data structure and algorithm. The input is a graph consists of 4 elements with 3 edges. The expected result is one set with all elements pointing toward the smallest element. The output is obtained by performing the union find algorithm iteratively. In the initialization, we add all elements into the data structure, with each element being an independent set. After that, we unite elements according to the 3 edges. Every edge is corresponding to a union operation. First, we unite the elements 0 and 1 by setting the parent of element 1 to be 0. Second, elements 3 and 2 are united into the same set. The third edge indicates that we need to unite the sets containing element 3 and element 0. Because element 3 is not a set root, we find the root of element 3 next and pass the edge to the root. After the set root of 3 is identified, which is element 2, the edge is passed and connects 0 and 2. We point element 2 to element 0 so that the two disjoint sets are united. We next compress the path between elements 3 and 0. Element 3 directly points to element 0 after the path compression. Finally, we get the desired output, where each element points to the set root. We can label the entire set using the root ID. In the literature, a disjoint set is usually represented by a tree structure called disjoint set tree, with every element being a tree node. Every disjoint set tree has a root element as a representative of the entire set, and each element stores a pointer to a parent. The right figure shows an example consisting of 4 sets. Every set has a root, which is the smallest element in the set. Using a tree representation has 2 benefits. First, we can unite disjoint sets efficiently by uniting roots. Second, we can quickly identify whether 2 elements belong to the same set. Union find usually supports 3 basic operations: add, union, and find. Add operation is to add elements into the data structure, and it's usually used in the initialization stage. Union operation is responsible for uniting the sets containing the 2 given elements into a single set. Find operation returns the root element of the set containing the given element. Next, let's move on to the distributed and parallel union find. In the distributed computing environment, elements and edges are distributed among participating processes. Each process holds a subset of elements. In this example, 12 elements indexed from 0 to 11 are distributed among 4 processes. The data structure for distributed union find is named distributed disjoint set tree. For example, in the figure, disjoint set trees are distributed among 4 processes. Even a single tree may be related to multiple processes. For example, the green tree in the right figure is distributed over process 1 and process 3. In the tree, a local root indicates the root of a subtree located in a process. For example, in the figure, element 8 is the local root of the subtree formed by elements 8 and 11. The existing methods are based on a asynchronous parallel model and synchronize disjoint sets among all processes every iteration. For example, in the figure, elements 8 and 9 are temporary set roots, but have edges connecting with other smaller elements. Hence, after the synchronization, elements 8 and 11 merges into the light green set formed by elements 1 and 4. Element 9 merges with element 5. A limitation is that processes without inter-process communications at an iteration need to wait for other processes to complete the synchronizations and have increased idle time. In this example, process 1 and 3 require the communications for unions, but process 0 and 2 do not need communications, and hence causing process 0 and 2 to become idle for the global synchronization to complete. The global synchronization hence increases communication costs. To allow process peers to only exchange data when necessary, we replace global synchronizations with asynchronous parallelism for the distributed union-find algorithm. The asynchronous parallelism overlaps processes' communications and computations, leading to the reduction of idle time. Although asynchronous parallelism causes the set unions are performed with an arbitrary union order. A fact is that unions of sets are independent of the union order. For example, here are 3 elements, and every 2 elements are connected by an edge. We can merge elements 0 and 1 first, which then merge with element 2. Finally, we get a set containing all elements. Similarly, we can merge elements 0 and 2 first, which then merge with element 1 given the same set. Also, we can merge elements 1 and 2 first, which then merge with element 0. The output is also the same. The asynchronous parallelism will not cause side effects for the set union. Please check our paper for formal proof. Here we compare the pipelines of existing synchronous parallel union find and our asynchronous union find. In the synchronous parallel model, after the initialization, the algorithms perform local union find computation, queue outgoing messages, exchange messages among processes synchronously, and perform synchronous termination detection. The iteration terminates until all computations are done. Instead, we use asynchronous parallelism to program the union find. The difference is processes exchange messages asynchronously and use asynchronous termination detection without waiting for the responses of other processes. Processes will not be blocked by the communications of other processes, which significantly reduces the synchronization costs. The design of our asynchronous algorithm also has other important details. First, we propose a uniting by ID rule to guarantee the resulting disjoint set trees have no loops and are consistent with respect to different union orders. Second, we consider boundary cases to avoid communication deadlocks to guarantee the termination of asynchronous distributed union find. Please read our paper if you are interested in the details. We next discuss workloads of processes. Existing methods partition the mesh evenly and assign partitioned mesh to each process. For example, in the figure, each process has the same number of mesh cells. However, the number of elements in each process may be different when elements are distributed non-uniformly in the data domain. Imbalanced elements lead to imbalanced workloads among processes. For example, in the figure, we color elements in red. Each process has different numbers of elements. Process 0 has no element and hence has no work to do. To tackle the problem of workload imbalance, we redistribute elements among processes so that each process has a similar number of elements. This workload balancing works because the computation time of each process is proportional to the number of local elements. The input of the load balancing consists of the elements with numeric coordinates. In the output, each process is expected to have a similar number of elements. We use a distributed KD tree decomposition to accomplish our goal. The KD tree decomposition can adjust the domain boundaries of processes and redistribute elements among processes so that each process has a similar number of elements. In this example, each process has 3 elements after the KD tree-based element redistribution. Please take a look at our paper for the algorithm details. To demonstrate our method's scalability, we perform evaluations on synthetic data and 2 application data, including exploding Y experimental data and fusion plasma simulation data. In the evaluations, we compare our method with the current state-of-the-art distributed union find algorithm as a baseline, which uses a synchronous parallel model and even partitioning of mesh cells. The synthetic volumetric data have Voxel values ranging from -1 to +1. The synthetic data allow us to track and extract different types of elements. We can detect critical points and track the movement of the critical points in the domain. Also, we can extract super-level sets, that is, voxels with values larger than a threshold from the synthetic data. Here we label different sets of extracted voxels using different colors. Also, the synthetic data enable us to control the data resolution and the number of elements in the domain for different studies. We first perform a strong scaling study on the synthetic data for both the critical point tracking and super-level set extraction. The strong scaling evaluates how the execution time changes, along with an increasing process count with a fixed input data. In the charts, the x-axis is the process count, the y-axis is the execution time. Blue lines show the performance of the baseline approach. Orange lines show the performance of our method with asynchronous parallelism. Green lines show our method with both asynchronous parallelism and element redistribution. The strong scaling is ideal when the execution time decreases linearly with the increase of the process count. The lines of our method are closer to the ideal scaling, indicating our methods have better strong scaling efficiencies. Also, we label the speedups of our methods over the baseline when 1024 processes are used. Our methods have more than 10x speedup for both the critical point tracking and super-level set extraction cases. We compare Gantt charts between the baseline and our method when 128 processes are used to investigate the improvement of asynchronous parallelism in detail. The 2 charts on the left show the comparison for the critical point tracking case. The right 2 charts show the comparison for the super-level set extraction. The x-axis of every chart is the execution time. Each row in the y-axis corresponds to one process and shows the activities of the process with respect to the execution time. Blue bars encode the computation time of the baseline with synchronous parallelism. Orange bars encode the computation time of our asynchronous union find. White bars are corresponding to the idle and the communication time. The Gantt charts clearly show that synchronous union find has high idle and communication time due to the global synchronizations. Processes with low workload need to wait for processes with high computations to complete for the synchronizations. When asynchronous parallelism is used, processes do not need to wait for other processes. The computations and the communications are overlapped, leading to the reduction of idle and the communication costs. We also perform a weak scaling study on the synthetic data for both the critical point tracking and super-level set extraction. The weak scaling evaluates the performance where each process is assigned the same number of elements as the process count increases. The ideal weak scaling is the execution time does not increase as the process count grows. The lines of our methods are closer to the ideal scaling, indicating our methods have better weak scaling efficiencies. We tested our distributed union find in two scientific applications. The first is to track particles in exploding Y image data captured by high-speed imaging cameras. Tracking particles in exploding Y experiments help physicists understand the properties of the high-temperature microparticles and develop new theoretical models. The particles usually are points with high intensities in the images. We represent the particles by local maximum points in the images and track the maximum points. The second application is to track blobs in fusion plasma simulations. Blobs are high ion density regions in the simulation data. The blobs will cause the loss of plasmas and damage devices, where the blob tracking can help scientists identify how to reduce the damage. We extract such regions by extracting super-level sets from the density fields. The chart shows the strong scaling performance of different distributed union find algorithms for the two applications. Generally, our method achieves better strong scaling efficiencies. For the particle tracking in the exploding Y experiments, with both asynchronous parallelism and elementary distribution, our method has a 26.60x speed up over the baseline. For the blob tracking in the fusion plasma simulations, our method with asynchronous parallelism and elementary distribution has a 141.23x speed up. The load balancing is effective in both applications because the elements are distributed non-uniformly in the data domain, as illustrated in the figures. In conclusion, to improve the scalability of the distributed union find, we proposed a new algorithm for scalable scientific visualization and analysis with two contributions. First, we proved global synchronizations in distributed union find can be removed. Hence, we overlapped communications with computations using asynchronous parallelism to reduce synchronization costs. Second, we redistributed the set elements using a distributed KD tree decomposition to balance processes' workloads. Our algorithm demonstrated improved scaling characteristics than existing distributed union find methods in the scientific applications of critical point tracking and super-level set extraction. Thank you for listening. We also thank our funding providers.